This is a drama, horror and thriller genre movie. The movie has won Nightmares Film Festival Award for Best Actress Feature and won award from Fractured Visions Film Festival for Best Film both in 2019. The film has rating 5.8 from IMDb. The name of the movie is One Bedroom and release year is 2019. I hope you enjoy it. And as quick reminder, this video contains spoilers. Sarah, Nicole Britton Bloom, the protagonist, is shown getting out of a somewhat rusty blue automobile and approaching a residence with vacancies notice. She enters and, with a cool expression on her face, assists an elderly woman. She walks around the corner to the second level of an apartment complex to check it out, but to her surprise, the place is already occupied. The man, identified as Jerry, Taylor Nichols, informs her it's not first come, first serve as she prepares to leave. As she examines the room, she discovers two impressions in the wall that had been covered up with caulking and painting. The phrase, "It's a smoke-free and pet-free apartment building," causes her to reach out and run her fingertips over the protruding cracks in the wall. Sarah is shown with Gus completing a form. She responds, "No, I don't own a pet," in reference to the pet policy. She gets in her car and heads for a motel. She is shown on the bed, in low light, working on a notebook computer. As she browses the web, an orange kitten jumps up onto her lap. She unwillingly checks at the phone and then takes it up to answer an incoming call. It's her dad, Alan Blumenfeld, aka Goose. He probes her to find out whether she is sincere about this. She decided to move out to Los Angeles on her own, ditching both her studies and her hopes of becoming a costume designer. Sarah is now working at a desk. Sarah has a compassionate fellow worker called Lisa, Celeste Sully, in her demanding, poorly compensated temporary job as a data entry clerk in an attorney's firm. Sarah receives a call from the building's management informing her that she has been hired. Next, Sarah is observed carrying a huge container upstairs to the second story, covering it with a blue blanket. When Brian finds out it's you moving in next door, he presents himself as a neighbor and volunteers to provide a hand. Sarah confidently states, "I got this," as the camera transitions to her flat. Sarah thinks the pipes are making strange noises as they settle in over the next few days. The residential complex, however, begins sending out notifications saying that dogs are not permitted. She brushes off the initial note, but seconds later another one with the words, "Selfish bitch," shines beneath her door. She opens the door hastily and sees that the corridor beyond is empty. She looks down the hall and spots frightening one-eyed Lester. Sarah hesitantly accepts Brian's invitation to a dinner party. However, later on, we witness Sarah and her co-worker Lisa bringing in takeout. While chatting on the couch, Lisa encourages Sarah to follow her passion and become a costume designer. Sarah's smoke alarm goes off later that night as thick smoke pours from the oven. Her pet cat was accidentally baked. Later, Brian binds her to an IKEA seat and pulls out the torture arsenal. Sarah, however, dismantles the seat and bolts for the exit. She runs across one of the other inhabitants, Esther, while attempting to get away and asks Esther for assistance. Esther responds to Brian's reassurances that things are under control with a stern "better be." Sarah has recently come to the conclusion that every single local is complicit in the abduction. She is subdued and knocked out by Brian and Esther. She comes to a scrubbed-up room that has been sealed up. When Brian and Jerry walk in, they remind her that she needs to learn to work with others. She is put in what is called a stress position, which entails her having to stand with both of her hands towards the wall. She must maintain her stance until the lights are turned out, and will be penalized if she does not. This continues for several days. Lester gets invited in and told what takes place to those who fight. An ear is pulled off, and to those who attempt to flee, an eye is removed, during the torture. Sarah agrees for several more days till she finally breaks down. She is threatened with death unless she puts her hands up on the wall. That's why they nailed her hands to the wall. In the end, she discards them and retreats to a solitary spot. Sarah, who had been seated in the corner, stands slowly and puts her hands on the bleeding wall as the lights come back on. Just then, Brian and Jerry walk in and congratulate her on passing the first of many required tests for full membership in the neighborhood. Sarah becomes a part of the neighborhood for the next few months. She learns about the community's beliefs and practices via reading the guiding ideology. She can be seen in the video walking back and forth across the room as she reads intently from the book. After entering Asilo Del Mar, she rapidly learns that there is no way out. Sarah gets stamped behind the ear and handed to Lester, Clayton Hoff, a neighbor who recently lost his wife to cancer, when Jerry determines she is ready to become an official member of the community. Her successor is Sarah. Sarah won't accept her new surroundings quietly. In addition to her father visiting to attempt to speak a little into her, Sarah's old friend and employee Lisa finally applies to move in. She's been picked to undergo the same ordeal as the others, but she's giving up. She refuses to give in and is far too independent. Jerry tries to coerce Sarah into giving her a lobotomy, but Sarah responds by stabbing him. Sarah murders Jerry because he murdered Lisa. She runs away, hoping to get away from the neighborhood, but everyone stops her at the door. She has almost entered the room. She sticks an arm and shoulder out, but the gang quickly pulls her back inside. Lester quickly kills the man who held Sarah, letting her free herself and leave through the door. When the entryway closes and blood splashes on the glazed pane, we watch Lester bring the pistol up to his chin. While sprinting down the road in a pool of her own blood, she remembers that the entire block is owned by the CBE Corporation. She figures out that the entire block belongs to the same CBE firm, the originator of the philosophy. Sarah comes to a halt in front of another building when she spots a dome-shaped camera mounted on the building's front. Red lights flash and an alarm sounds to signal an evacuation. As the siren wails in the faraway distance, Sarah turns and rushes down the street. That was recap of One Bedroom. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the recap, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to not miss videos like this.